Did you know that Max Verstappen could be on the verge of leaving Red Bull, and that there have already been secret contacts with Mercedes? And what seemed like just a rumor after Christian Horner's departure could now be the most shocking move of the decade. Before continuing, tell me in the comments, would Verstappen be right to leave Red Bull? Or would it be a mistake? So, what's behind this masterstroke that could change the entire Formula One? In this video, we'll analyze in detail everything that's happening with Max Verstappen, the tensions with Red Bull, the contacts with Mercedes, the secret clause in his contract, and what could happen in the coming months. Four-time world champion Max Verstappen has been the dominant figure in Formula One since 2021. His name has become synonymous with Red Bull Racing, a team that has built a structure around him designed to win. However, what seemed like a solid and long-standing relationship is now under extraordinary strain. The dismissal of Christian Horner as Red Bull team principal wasn't just a change of leadership. It was the fall of a key figure in the team's modern era. Horner wasn't just the boss. He was the political, strategic, and operational pillar of the team. And his departure wasn't exactly amicable. Internal tensions had been building for some time, and the media knew it. But few imagined the conflict would reach this level of rupture. The most surprising thing is who was behind that pressure. According to reports close to the paddock and statements from influential figures such as Martin Brundle, Verstappen's entourage played a decisive role in Horner's departure. In Brundle's words, they've been throwing hand grenades for several months, and some have exploded. That phrase sums up the level of internal wear and tear. Jos Verstappen, Max's father, was an active figure in that conflict. His influence on his son's career is nothing new, but it has now escalated beyond the sport. He has become a political player within Red Bull. The team has found itself caught between two opposing forces. On the one hand, an administration seeking to maintain control amid internal investigations, and on the other, a Verstappen family increasingly dissatisfied with the leadership, strategic decisions, and the tensions building at the top of the organization. What began as personal differences ended up affecting the team's stability in the middle of the season. The context, then, is not just sporting. It's political, it's strategic, and it's personal. Red Bull is no longer the same team that supported him to his first title. The moment a rumor stops being just hallway talk and becomes a real threat is when people close to the protagonist start speaking publicly. And that's exactly what's happening now with Max Verstappen. What just a few months ago seemed like baseless speculation is now backed up by concrete statements, strategic leaks, and silent moves that are shaking up the entire Formula One world. One of the strongest triggers was a statement that took even the most skeptical by surprise. Nelson Piquet Jr., Max Verstappen's brother-in-law, broke his silence during an interview on the Brazilian podcast Pelas Pistas. It wasn't an ambiguous insinuation or a phrase that could be misinterpreted. He was direct, clear, and forceful. They're talking. Everyone knows that, right? Only the final details of the contract are missing, but everyone knows it's an option. That statement set off alarm bells in the paddock and confirmed what many already suspected. Negotiations between Verstappen and Mercedes are much more advanced than Red Bull would be willing to admit. But that wasn't all. Piquet Jr. not only hinted that the talks were real, but went further. When asked directly whether it would be better to change or stay, his response was immediate. Change. For those who understand how the world of Formula One works, such statements don't happen by accident. This isn't an isolated comment. It's a message. What continues to fuel the theory of an imminent departure is the support the alleged deal is reportedly receiving from the highest levels of Mercedes. Ola Kalinius, the company's CEO, has reportedly already given the green light to a high-impact move to sign the reigning world champion. In an interview with Sky Germany, Kalinius was subtle but revealing. The best drivers want to drive the best cars. Our task is to put together the best possible package, and with regard to Max, I think he'd be fine with silver. Words that, in this context, cannot be ignored. As if that weren't enough, there are additional elements that strengthen the idea that a change is not only possible, but probable. Sources close to both Red Bull and Mercedes confirm that talks have moved from mere explorations to a stage of tactical coordination. There is no talk yet of signings or definitive dates, but there is talk of contractual terms, performance projections, and technical team compatibility. The tension is also felt in off-camera movements. Unofficial meetings during the summer break, such as the meeting between Toto Wolff and Max Verstappen on the island of Sardinia, have generated a wave of speculation. Although Mercedes denied any formal meeting, sources indicate that messages are being sent from Verstappen's entourage to facilitate a negotiated exit at the end of the 2025 season. The level of detail, the public statements, the involvement of the Mercedes CEO, the leaks from Verstappen's family, and the corporate signals leave little room for doubt. This is no longer a simple summer rumor. It's an ongoing operation that could culminate in the biggest transfer of the hybrid era of Formula One. In an attempt to regain control and calm the waters, Red Bull appointed Laurent Mekies as its new CEO and team principal. Mekies is no shoo-in. He comes from managing racing bulls and was deputy team principal at Ferrari. He understands the internal politics of Formula One, knows how to read the paddock, and has the experience necessary to stabilize a team amidst the storm. His first statement as team principal was measured but significant. He acknowledged the magnitude of Horner's legacy and hinted that the transition process will not be easy. His phrase, "It is impossible to underestimate the magnitude of the achievement this team has achieved under Christian's 20 years of leadership," clearly illustrates the complexity of the challenge facing them. But Mekies' arrival alone is no guarantee of anything. Red Bull is dealing with an internal rift that goes much deeper than a simple change of leadership. Jos Verstappen has been a key figure in the pressure exerted on Horner. His influence has crossed the sporting boundaries to become a political player within the team. His relationship with Horner had been strained for some time, and his public statements, such as when he warned that the team would explode if Horner continued, left an open wound that has yet to heal. Max, for his part, has handled the situation with strategic silence. He hasn't issued strong statements, but neither has he openly endorsed the new leadership. This ambiguity is no coincidence. It's a sign that his loyalty is not guaranteed and that he is carefully evaluating his options. Within the team, the uncertainty is real. Although some try to project stability, the atmosphere has changed. Helmut Marko remains an influential figure, but his role is increasingly limited by his age and his own desire to gradually withdraw from the team's day-to-day operations. His recent comments about not being at Red Bull forever have only fueled the perception that the team is entering a dangerous period of transition. And in that context, retaining Verstappen becomes a huge challenge. From a sporting perspective, Red Bull still has the tools to be competitive. But the big question isn't whether the car will remain fast. The real question is whether the environment is right for Max to want to stay. If Max Verstappen ultimately decides to leave Red Bull to join Mercedes, the repercussions would be profound, not only for both teams, but for the entire Formula One. It has knock-on effects that could redraw the power hierarchy on the grid and redefine the long-term strategies of several teams. Max would also be taking risks with such a move. The Mercedes car, as promising as it is under development, has not been specifically designed for him. There is a risk that the adaptation will not be immediate, that the performance will not be as dominant as it was at Red Bull, at least in the first few races. Furthermore, the Red Bull Ford engine project also represents an unknown for Verstappen. If he decides to leave and the new engine proves successful, he could lose a key advantage. But it is also true that if the engine fails, as many fear due to Red Bull's inexperience as a full-service manufacturer, Verstappen would have preempted disaster with a masterstroke. The consequences of this change, therefore, would be systemic. This would affect not only the teams involved, but also other players in the championship. Drivers like Russell, Antonelli, and even young talents from other academies would see their career plans altered. The brands associated with each team, sponsorship contracts, and television broadcast narratives would all shift according to the new balance. Max's arrival at Mercedes would not just be a change of uniform. It would be the beginning of a new era. And everything seems to point to a critical moment, the Hungarian Grand Prix. At that exact point in the calendar, an exit clause in Verstappen's contract could be triggered. This clause, although discussed with contradictory versions by different media outlets, raises a real possibility of immediate termination if certain performance criteria are not met. In addition to the car, there is the question of the engine. New regulations require more sustainable hybrid power units, and Mercedes, with its previous experience, has a significant advantage. In contrast, Red Bull faces the uncertainty of developing its own engine for the first time in partnership with Ford. Although the Red Bull Powertrains project is ambitious, it is also risky. And Max knows it. In a scenario as tight as the one posed by 2026, engine reliability and technical preparation can make the difference between fighting for titles or being relegated to the background. Meanwhile, Mercedes isn't waiting around. The German team is executing a meticulous strategy to prepare for its return to the top in 2026. They have already diverted 75% of their resources toward developing the car they will debut under the new technical regulations. This is no small feat. It demonstrates how Mercedes is prioritizing the future over the immediate present. And that's exactly what Max is looking for. A solid project with a clear vision and the technical resources necessary to remain competitive. That percentage invested in 2026 could be the factor that convinces Verstappen to take the plunge. What we can say with certainty is that Verstappen, more than ever, has become the linchpin of Formula One. In the coming months, the picture will become clearer. The decisions made between now and the Hungarian Grand Prix will be key. But whatever happens, we've already crossed a point of no return. The bond between Verstappen and Red Bull is damaged, and while they may continue together for a while longer, the trust is no longer the same. And now I want to know your opinion. Do you think Verstappen should stay at Red Bull and try to rebuild that relationship? Or do you think his fate is already written and that Mercedes is the next logical step for his career? Leave your answer in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.